This is a story of two villages, Esa and Bovi. In this story, you're going to be hearing these names a lot. So I'm going to need you to remember these names. So let's get right into the movie. The movie begins with Prince. He is going to the village to attend his sister's engagement ceremony in their village, Bovi village, a village they haven't been to for years since their parents died. After the ceremony, their only surviving uncle, Uncle Jakpa, told them a certain man called Ndio wants to see them.
He specifically requested to see the both of you.
A request declined by Princess.
I do not want to see him.
She hurriedly left the village, leaving Prince behind. Prince had decided to spend one more day in the village. Before she left, Princess warned her brother, Prince, not to eat or drink or even touch anyone while he is in the village.
No handshakes, nothing like that. No, seriously.
But Prince believed his sister is just superstitious. As for him, he doesn't believe in witches and witchcraft. Prince decides to have some fun while he is still in the village, but it is only a matter of time before he starts to catch certain attention. Later in the evening, he went along with his uncle to see Ndio. Ndio offered him palm wine and bushmeat. As if that's not enough, he offered his granddaughter, Agai, to spend the night with him. He checked into the village 5-star hotel, accompanied by Agai, with the intention of sleeping with her. While he was trying to get comfortable with Agai, 3 strange old ladies knocked the door. They offered him black soaps. He declined, even though they insisted. But the night gets even more crazy when Agai insisted that before they do anything, Prince must tell her he loves her.
Is that what turns you on?
Prince was more than willing to oblige.
So if I don't tell you I love you, not show for me, nothing for me.
But then again, she wants him to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it over and over again before he can do the do.
What the hell? I beg, you say no, don't worry, sleep.
This strange sexual fetish turned Prince off, so they ended up sleeping separately and nothing sexual happened that night. So the next day, Prince left the village and headed for Lagos as early as 4 a.m. in the morning. Prince thought that he has escaped the village, but his troubles is about to begin. First, Aga tied his picture and kept it in a calabash under her bed. Then, as he is traveling, his driver jammed the brakes all of a sudden, because just ahead of them, the same 3 old women that came to visit him the night before were standing right there in the middle of the road, and they were carrying the black soap that he refused the previous night. But this time he had no choice, because the women held him hostage until he took the soap from them, and he unwillingly gave them his phone number. So Prince got to Lagos, and he is more than happy to get back to work and put everything that happened in the village behind him. The company he works for needs him to deliver an important presentation alongside his partner, Hame. To make sure everything is in order, they both decided to work late. After they finished with what they were working on, Prince began to flirt with Ame. One thing led to another. As Prince was about to kiss Ame, Agai called just in time to interrupt the moment.
Don't worry.
How Agai got Prince's number is a mystery. He did not give her his number while he was in the village. Again, Prince made a move to kiss Ame. He switched off his phone to avoid another distraction. But guess what? Agai's call come true yet again.
I saw you turn that off.
Exactly.
Before he could try again, Ame's girlfriend came in just in time to put an end to whatever Prince had in mind. Agai keeps calling Prince non-stop. Prince politely tells her to move on, that there is nothing between them, but Agai for some reason wanted him.
Please.
But you said you loved me, were you lying?
To put her off his back, Prince told her he's getting married to remove him from Esa village. Remember, Prince is from Bovi, and Bovi and Esa do not intermarry at all. Intermarriage is forbidden. The idea of losing Prince to an Esa woman annoys Agai.
I cannot lose you to an Esa woman.
And she told Prince that she is coming to Lagos for him. Prince thought she's joking because she doesn't have his address. The following day at the office, Prince began to see Agai's faces around and he became unfocused. And to make matters worse, a sex tape is projected on the board from his computer during his presentation. Even though he tried as much as possible to put a stop to it, the presentation was a complete disaster. Consequently, Prince and Ame got sacked. On getting home, Agai called him to ask him about the presentation. Prince was shocked. How could she possibly know he had a presentation? Before he could say anything, Agai announced that she is at his house. He looked right to the window. Lo and behold, Agai is standing there. Completely in shock, Prince ran to his car and drove to his friend's house to pass the night. But his friend refused to allow him to stay, so he had no choice but to check into an hotel, but his troubles are far from over. So when he was in his room, he heard a knock at the door. At first, he thought it was room service. He opened, but there is no one there. But when he looked through the peephole, Agai is standing right there at the door, and Agai started to bang on the door heavily. Prince managed to get out and went to the security post. He offered to pay the security guards money so they can stay close to him and keep him awake. Even at that, he still fell asleep and had a nightmare. He left the hotel early and he went to Ame's residence to apologize for getting her sacked and explain what is going on with him or the spiritual attacks he believes he has been having. But Ame is not particularly interested in whatever that is going on with him, so she asked him to leave. Just as he was about to open the door, Agai busted in, possessed and fire in her eyes. She knocked Ame out and held Prince hostage with the intent to leave with him. But Ame got up and held her by the throat and tossed her away like a piece of paper. Seeing Ame like this got Prince even more confused. He ran out of the apartment. He seeks advice from the driver who took him to his pastor who demanded money before service. Prince paid and the pastor gave him a spiritual bath to cleanse him. The pastor also followed him to his apartment to exorcise the place. Of course, he had to sow more seeds in order for the ministry to move forward. Just as the pastor is performing his spiritual deliverance, I busted in. The pastor comforted them and the pastor got a big slap for his efforts. Then both Agai and Ame held Prince hostage and demands he choose one of them. He left Prince to make his decision, but Prince began to search for a way to be rid of the two evil women. He went online to look for an expert in witchcraft, so he got in contact with Professor Pium. Prince was skeptical about the professor at first, but he changed his mind when the professor showed him things from his large mirror. But the problem is that the prince had eaten a piece of candy given to him by a random person. So the professor ran into the room to get an antidote for him. But before he came back, Prince had already fell into a trance and his spirit has left his body. He had been summoned to the witch's coven and bound with chains. Agai was called to perform some rituals on him. Agai wasn't really happy doing it and even begged for him to be set free, and it is shown that Agai wanted a way out of the witchcraft. Meanwhile, at the same time, Professor is trying to get him to wake up from the trance. After trying without success, he sprinkled water on him and immediately Ame showed up in his coven to save him. So he woke up. The professor encouraged Prince to eat some of the candy so they could find out why Agai is still after him. Once he ate the candy, he fell into a trance again. He found himself in a room with Agai, and Agai revealed to him that he is the chosen one. Personally, I would have loved to know more so I can put the piece of the puzzle together, but before Agai could give us more information, breeze started to blow and water was rushing into the room. Agai put him to sleep in the spirit realm and he woke up. Prince knew he had to see his uncle to get more answers. For protection, Professor gave him a jacket to wear, and they both made the journey back to bovi village. On meeting with his uncle told him that it is indeed true that his father is not from bovi village. His mother had married his father from Etsa, which is an abomination. But how does this piece of information affect Prince? I'm not quite sure. In the next scene, both Agai and Ame had a meeting at an exotic restaurant to reach a resolution on Prince's matter. Agai asked Ahmed to leave Prince alone, but neither of them wanted to leave Prince for the other, so the meeting ended in a stalemate. But at the same moment, Prince and Professor is searching Agai's room in the village where she hid Prince's picture. Prince found the calabash and he burnt it. Eventually, the marine spirits seized Prince and took him to the underwater into the marine kingdom. The prince was about to be forced into marriage, but he somehow escaped and found himself on the beach. He returned to Professor's house. Professor made him to understand that Agai has come to him earlier and explained to him that she needs Prince to come and save her because she is in trouble for not bringing in the prince as required of her from the witch's coven. So the prince had to save her by showing her love and repeating "I love you" 7 times. So on their way to see Agai, it started to rain heavily. So Ahmed showed up. Bovi managed to run and hide, but Ahmed used her powers to drag him out. Prince took out some of the candy he had left and ate it, and he fell into trance. He found himself once again in the witch's coven, where Agai is about to be killed by the witches for her failure. So the witches tie him up and put crown on him, expecting him to be the chosen one. But they all are disappointed because he's not the chosen one. But when Princess showed up, they all see that Princess is in fact the chosen one and the ruler of the marine kingdom. Princess spared Agai's life, and Prince told her he loved her, and this time the words was able to break her curse. So Prince woke up from the trance and Ahmed left him alone for good. So this is basically where the movie ends. I hope I've tried my best because this is one of the most difficult films for me to narrate. I hope you're able to understand it.